Principles of change. In this world, we are constantly going to face change. Things are going to change. Stuff is going to happen. Things change around us. We need to change. Change kind of seems to need to happen, right? Before change, things are, maybe they're safe, maybe they're secure, they're familiar, and then something happens. We have a shifting and a rocking of mindsets and beliefs. Anybody ever have that happen to you? Where suddenly you're introduced to some different ideas, or you suddenly hear some different beliefs and mindsets and stuff, and you kind of go through a shifting and a rocking time, right? And in that time, there's chaos. Things are just topsy-turvy. Like, you don't really know what's going on. And then from that chaos comes clarity. So with clarity, there are new beginnings and things become comfortable. Right? So I want to show you 9-dot puzzle. You have the 9-dot puzzle in your books. I want you to connect all those dots together. You'd put your pen on the paper and you'd connect all the dots together with 4 straight lines. They can go across the corner and things, but without taking your pen off the paper. If you have never seen this before, you're probably not going to get it on your own. Maybe you will, but it's not very likely. Because many of us suffer from a boxed-in feeling. This is a feeling that a lid has been nailed down on our opportunities to grow. But it has to do with mindsets, right? And so I want to show you the lines connected. And I want you to watch this, because I'm going to take it away. I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to take it away. And some of you might then be able to get it, and some of you might still not be able to get it. So pay attention. You ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shall I show it to you again? This time I'll let it up there, and now most of you should be able to get it. But see, our brain automatically puts us inside that perceived box of those 9 dots, right? Unless we think outside the box. How many times in life do we box ourselves into a certain space, and then we can't find the rest of our answers? So the 9-dot puzzle is about boundaries. We teach others how to treat us. What could I be if I went beyond my perceived boundaries? If I went beyond my boundaries? We're not talking about going beyond God's boundaries here. We're talking about what could I be if I went beyond my perceived boundaries? You could sing. You could do other things, right? If you would just step out and give it a try. Each time I create, I go out of my boundaries. If I get creative, I go outside of my perceived boundaries and find something new, something else. So here's the question. How do I put myself in a box or allow others to put me in a box? How do I put myself in a box or allow others to put me in a box? What box do you have? And how are you going to stretch outside of that box? You are getting stretched outside of that box, right? And now you have new perceived boundaries. Every time you step out there, you have a little bit of a different perceived boundaries. How we learn. We communicate 7% with words, 38% with voice, and 55% with body language. We learn 55% visually, 23% by hearing, and 22% by our feelings, how we feel about what we're learning. And so if I stand up here and I give you words, so let's say I would come up here and I would just start giving you some words, and I would be giving you the words that are teaching you some things about this lesson. And if I just give you the words and I don't put any voice inflection into what I'm saying, and even now as I'm saying this, I'm putting some voice inflection in, but I'm trying to not put too much in, so that I'm just giving you the words and not the voice inflection, not the body language. I'm just giving you the words so that you can understand what I am saying, and you can put this into your brain and you can start calculating what is going on. And some of you are starting to get very irritated because you do not like when I do not put voice inflection into my words. If I just put the same expression and I say the words as I'm going, you are getting the words, but it is starting to get very annoying and really hard for you to concentrate and really hard for you to get what I'm saying. And some of you are starting to shut down already.
Get more out of it without words.
Get more out of it without the words, right? And so, voice inflection. I want to say a sentence to you, and I'm going to say it with different voice inflections and see if you get a different meaning out of it. Ready? I never said you stole chickens. 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 Isn't it true that each one of those gave a little bit of a different message? Right? And so what if you would do that in the Bible? For God so loved the world. 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 And it does a little bit different. Sometimes, if I'm having a hard time understanding a verse, I run it through that. See if I get something different out if I put a little, put a different emphasis on a different syllable. Do you ever know that if you put an emphasis on a different syllable, it comes out a little different? Emphasis on a different syllable. I just did it, emphasis on the syllable. You get that? Right? If you put the emphasis on a different syllable, it comes out a little different. So let's say body language. How many of you have ever heard somebody say, yeah, right? How many of you have ever heard them say, yeah, right? Yeah, right. A little different, right? How about if they say, yeah, right? How about if they say, yeah, right? Are you good at body language? How many of you know body language? How many of you know that if I go like this to you, it means something? We use body language all the time, right? We may not know it even. We might not consciously know it, but we read body language automatically as we meet people, right? And so different things mean something. And you can start learning what different things mean. And so I started working with people 26 years ago. And I started learning some of this stuff about body language. And so when you want to know, how did I know that you wanted to come up here? I'm watching you. I'm watching different people. You know, and so sometimes it's just a little, that's not a big thing, right? Did you see what I did? Just like that, right? And so if I ask you a question and your body answers me just like that, and then you're like, well, I don't know, but I already got my answer, right? Which one am I going to go by? What am I supposed to believe if you say, yeah, I think so? What am I supposed to believe? I'm probably going to go by the body language. It could mean you're double-minded. It could mean you're not even connected to your own feelings. It can mean a bunch of different things. But I'm going to check back. Okay, so do you actually want to do this or not? And then you might have to think about it and decide right there, yep, I want to do it. And then suddenly it's yes instead of yes. And all these things happen so quickly. Just like that. And so the more congruent you are, the more you are in agreement with yourself, the more clearly your body is going to express what is the truth in your life. The more that you hide things, the more that your words that you speak and your body language, the more you hide it, the farther apart they go. Right? So we communicate 7% with words. So if you ever have a disagreement, don't try very hard to work it out in a text message. Text message works great if you trust each other. And somebody goes, yeah, right. And you're like, they're saying, yeah, they're right. If you don't trust them, you're going to hear, yeah, right. And they actually meant, yeah, right. You are right. Right? So when you start doing it by text message and you see that it's going off track, don't keep trying to do it by text message. Find out, you might send them a text message, hey, can we meet sometime or can I call you? Because they need to hear your voice. And if they can see you, that's even better. And you express that you care and you want to work this out. Right? But if you understand that the words are only 7% of it, then you're going to be more careful even with your words, but then also with your voice inflection and with your body language, making sure that it's open, right? So if I stand up here and I still put voice inflection in, but I barely move, and if I use hand motions, it's big ones like this. Or if I'm up here and I'm moving around and I'm using hand signals like this, you are automatically going to receive more if I am like this than if I'm like this. Your mind is going to open up bigger if I open up bigger. So if I'm up here and I'm speaking to you and I'm moving around a little bit, it makes a bigger memory in your memory bank, and your brain calculates more and brings more into the equation than if I just stand there holding still. What? Are you disagreeing with what I'm saying, or are you saying something else? You like more when I do this because it includes more, right? If I do this, my fish was about this big, right? And I have this big idea that I want to present to you. How many want to hear about my big idea that I want to present to you? How many would rather hear my big idea? Right? How many of you recognize that when I am up here speaking, or when Galen is up here speaking, that we're actually using our hands to speak? And we're using our legs as we speak. We're moving around. What happens is, at the end of the day, your brain does a brain dump. And all the memories that don't mean anything to you get flushed down. And the memories that mean something to you get stored. Okay? So, if I'm up here and I suddenly do something different, you're going to remember that 20 years from now. Are you listening? 20 years from now, you could ask her if she remembers when she was sitting in the front row at January 2026, front row, and Steve was teaching, and he suddenly said the word suddenly, and she jumped. Right? Because it made a memory. It fastened something in there. And how many of you are going to remember that I stood up here and I gave you a bunch of words, but I didn't say very much with what I was saying? How many are going to remember that? Okay? You're probably going to remember that. How many are going to remember what I said? You already don't know what I said. Right? Am I right? How many of you barely have any idea of what I said? Okay? I said a lot of words there. Are you with me yet? Right? I said a lot of words, right? You heard every one of them, but you did not retain them. Your brain was dumping them as fast as I was speaking. Right? Do you know that sometimes you have a conversation with somebody and they're hearing the words that you're saying, but you're not getting to them? How many of you know how a telephone works? You call somebody, what happens if they hang up on you? Huh? They can't hear you. Right? What makes you think that if somebody is standing in front of you and they hang up, that they can still hear you? What makes you think just because you stood in front of them and said something to them that they heard you? Because if they hung up, they're not hearing you. And so, can you find ways to get them to pick up the phone? Can you find ways that interest them, that they're willing to listen again? Either somebody hung up when you were talking to them and they don't hear you anymore, or you hung up on them and you don't hear them anymore. Right? And often it's the same people. In other words, you hang up on me, I hang up on you. that type of thing. We have to get to the place where we're better than that. Where just because you hang up on me doesn't mean that I hang up on you. Right? So don't hang up on them. And if you sense that you did hang up on them, see if you can re-engage, maybe even ask them to meet again or say that again because you had hung up. If they hang up on you, can you find a way to get them to engage again? Maybe you can find out what's going on that they hung up. Is it something that I said? Is it something that you don't understand? What is that? So when I'm up here teaching, I'm watching to see if you're getting it or not. Right? And if you're not getting it, then I'm evaluating, do I need to engage you somehow? Or is it not that important in your life anyway, so maybe you don't have to get that part or whatever that is. But if I come then and I start asking you questions and you start engaging, you're going to get more out of the rest of the teaching. Right? So here's the next thing. Are you listening or are you listening? Do you think there's a difference? Because a lot of times when we cross our arms, it's because we shut down something. And when we shut down something, the blood flows through our arms different too. So you know that you have blood vessels on the surface and blood vessels deeper down. And so depending on what's going on in your psychological is going to also affect your physiological. Going to affect your body. Okay? But there's something about we cross our arms and we block people out. Right? Do you think it would make it harder for you if I would be up here teaching like this? Now, I have a lot of good things to teach you, and I want you to get this. Yes? Do I need a blanket? Would I look better in a blanket? Okay, does somebody have a blanket for me? I'll take this one. Does this make it easier for you to hear me? Huh? It's what? Makes it worse. Why does it make it worse? Why does this make it worse? Because subconsciously, your brain is recording this as me being in my own world, and you are not a part of it. But what I'm saying is, it automatically makes it harder. I'm not saying that you can't overcome that, because you can. But it automatically makes it harder than if I'm here with my arms open. I still have the blanket on, but now I'm inviting you into my world a little bit more. Right? And if I take the blanket away, does that make a difference? Can you feel the difference? Who are you? Your identity is who you are, and your reputation is who others think you are. Okay? Your identity is who you are, and your reputation is who others think you are. And transparency is when your reputation is in alignment with your identity. Transparency is if what my reputation is actually who I am. And so if I'm up here speaking to you, or if I meet you, let's say that you and I and a few other people would meet tonight separately. Am I a completely different person then than I am now? So then that means I'm being transparent with you, or that you can see my transparency. So if I step up here and I put my 4 fingers pointing right at you like this, you're going to feel something different than if I'm up here sharing with everybody. Right? Is that true? And so if I come up here and I'm like, okay, what's going on in your life? It puts a little bit of pressure on him. If I back away, it takes some of the pressure off. I come up again and put some pressure on again. I come over here and he might be like, oh, whew, finally he went away, and whoops, here he comes again. And then I just drive by and I say hi to him. And then I come back and say, hey, how are you doing? Doing good, all right. Do you see how he warmed up in that time? Why did he warm up? And would he have warmed up the same way if I would have stood right here in front of him? Yes?
Because you gave him space.
Because I actually addressed him and then went away and then came back again. Now he's wondering what I'm going to do next. There's a curiosity on his face now. And so he's actually kind of daring me to do something. Doesn't even know it. Look at that. So what are you getting out of this week? Huh? What are you getting out of this week? Stuff.
Yeah.
Is it an interesting week for you?
Yeah.
Would you say that this week has been very challenging, or would you say that it was very helpful? Helpful? Okay. And what would you say was the most helpful thing that you learned this week? Thing that Galen said on the first day. And what did Galen say on the first day?
Thing with the heart. Thing
about the heart and things like that. Okay? How many of you noticed what I did? Anybody notice what I did? What did I do?
You kept backing up as you went into a deeper question.
Mm-hmm. So I asked him a deeper question and backed up a step to take the pressure off, and he went deeper. And then I asked him a deeper question, backed off another step, and he went even deeper. Now, could he have went deeper if I would have stayed up here? Yeah, it would have just been harder. Right? And he probably didn't even really notice that. Did you notice? Because it's more subconscious. But it was happening, right? And so as you become good at communication, you will learn how to do some of these things that will make it easier to communicate, make it easier for people to relate with you. How many want that? Say, Lord, I want that.
Lord, I want that.
Right? Sometimes it can be helpful to just say, Lord, I want that. You activate your wanter, you speak out something. And I even believe that angels go to work starting to arrange some things so that we can get that. You might be surprised just by saying you want that. You might be surprised at what book you'll read in the next month or two that's going to fit right in here with this. You might be surprised at who you're going to meet that will speak something that fits right in here with this. Because there's something about it that attracts. When you want something, it attracts something. You also notice things more. How many of you have ever changed jobs? Like I used to build fences. When I went down the road, I saw the people's fences. I saw what color fence they had, what kind of fence they had. Did they have a chain link fence? Did they have a vinyl fence? Did they have a wood fence? Was it a split rail fence? What was the fence? What color was it installed right? Okay. So, how many of you have ever gotten a new vehicle, different vehicle, and suddenly you saw all kinds of vehicles like that? Right? Now, do you think it was suddenly just because you got a vehicle like that there were suddenly more vehicles? Or did you suddenly focus differently in such a way that you noticed those vehicles? Right? How many of you are roofers? And you notice the roofs. You go down the road and you know what kind of roofs people have, what color they are, what shape they are. You probably notice some roofs that should be replaced. Right? Carpenters. Well, my business is people. So I notice people. I look at you and I'm like, that is you. Mm-hmm. Oh, that one. Okay. Oh, that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Okay. Do you get that? That makes sense? So this is all part of life. This is a part of communication. This is a part of focused intention, paying attention to what is going on around us. Right? How many of you, in that video I showed of the girl going up the steps and the other people coming down, how many of you saw the people coming down, noticed what they were wearing, and all kinds of stuff like that? And how many of you were more focused on watching where she's going and what she was doing? Why was your focus on her? Why was your focus on her? Because she was doing something different. She was doing something that wasn't quite the normal, and so you were watching to see what is going to happen. Right? And you might have not been surprised if she would have gotten bumped over or something like that. So skill development. At first, when you are working on a skill, you are unconsciously incompetent. Another word for that is clueless. You were clueless. You didn't know that you didn't know, right? How many of you know how to raise monkeys? You know what you would feed them, what kind of care they take, anything, like you would know exactly what to do. Anybody?
I had a guy explain it to me.
You had a guy explain it to you. So do you believe you would know?
No.
No. Okay. So you're pretty much clueless. Maybe you wouldn't be quite clueless because somebody explained a little bit to you.
I would still be clueless.
You'd still be clueless. So then you learn about it a little bit and you become consciously incompetent. Now you know that you don't know. Before that, you didn't even know you didn't know. Right? Now you know you didn't know. And then you become consciously competent. You're able to perform if you stay focused. That's like driving a vehicle the first time, right? You stay focused and you... How many know the first time you drove, the steering wheel probably didn't stay straight? It was probably like this, right? And then later you drive with one hand and much smoother. But you were more focused when it was going like this, because your brain was trying to compensate for every little bit of move that happened And then later your brain knows that, no, you don't have to do that. You just gradually steer it. But now you're able to perform if you stay focused. Then you get to the point where you're unconsciously competent, which means that you perform automatically. You get in a vehicle and you start driving and you're thinking about your income tax, or you're thinking about your friends, or you're thinking about what the snowstorm's going to look like this weekend and things like that. And you're going through town, and after a bit, you're like, went through 3 traffic lights, and I cannot say for sure that they were actually green. I'm pretty sure they were. I would surely notice if they weren't. But I can't sit here and tell you, yep, absolutely, I saw them green. Right? Are you with me? That is unconsciously competent. You don't have to think about it anymore. You're now doing it from that automatic level. How do you get there? You practice, you rehearse, and you drill. And it helps if you have mentoring, because a mentor will help you to stay focused and to stay practiced and to drill. And you know, I'm asking a few times today, what do you want to do to stretch yourself? That's what we're talking about. Practice, rehearsal, and drill. Because if you stretch yourself, you're going to get good at it. If you get good at it, you're going to automatically do it. You don't have to try so hard, it's just going to come. Right? How many of you can think back over the last number of years and you recognize that certain things are much easier right now than they used to be? They just kind of more automatically happen. But at one point in your life, you had to really focus on it and push in for it. Anybody know what I'm talking about? So that's what we're talking about here. So I want to talk about a behavior flow chart. Earlier this week, somebody was talking about your environment and your things that happen in your life and your choices and things like that. Well, this is talking about your behavior flow chart. How does this work? First of all, I want us to understand, to understand that I am a non-physical essence. What does that mean? Who I am is not my physical being here. There's a non-physical essence inside of my physical being that is really who I am. Another way to say it would be like a spirit. Do you believe you're a spirit? So I believe that I'm a spirit, I have a soul, and I live in this motorhome. Are you with me yet? So if you understand that when you look at your face, you're seeing you, but not really. You're seeing your body. If you look deep in your eyes, you can look into your soul, but you can't see your spirit. Right? So my personal history, some of it comes from heredity. Some of it is based on my heredity. Heredity meaning the things that got passed on from my parents. And then there's that inner knower. Some call it a conscience. Some call it a gut feeling. Some call it a sixth sense. You know what I'm talking about? Like you know. Inside you know. You're not sure how you know. And so, for the sake of this conversation, we're going to call it our inner knower. We know from the inside of us. And which basically the inner knower, some of that is the stuff we pick up in the environment around us. and atmosphere, what we pick up in each other, that type of thing, right? And then there's our total life experience. Everything that you have experienced in your life so far becomes a part of your personal history. So how many of you recognize that for the most part, your thoughts tend to be more negative? Anybody have that where your thoughts tend to be a bit more negative? That means that you are more tuned into the negative than you are to the positive, which comes from things like self-rejection, self-hatred. It comes from fear, anger, things like that, which then attracts the more negative feelings to you. More negative thoughts, rather. Okay? So you can change that. You can change that dial to where you receive the positive. So let me give you an example of that. So how about, which one of you wants to say something negative to me? Anybody want to volunteer to say something negative to me?
Okay. You're stupid.
Okay. What makes you say that?
I don't actually think that, but.
Okay, but let's say you would think that. What would make you say that?
Probably your actions.
My actions? Okay. So what actions am I taking that would tell you that I am stupid?
Can I make some up?
Huh?
Can I make some up?
Sure.
You're walking around hurting people. You slap someone in the face.
Okay.
And you're not very good at making decisions.
Okay, so if you've seen me walking around hurting people and slapping them in the face, then you should also be able to tell me who I slapped.
Can I also make that up?
Sure.
Okay, Mervin.
Okay, so Mervin, do you remember a time that I slapped you in the face?
I don't.
I don't either. So I don't really think that's true, do you?
No.
No, I don't think that's true. I checked with Mervin, he doesn't believe it's true either. So do you have another one?
No. I can make
Do you understand that if my negative receiver was turned on, the minute she said I was stupid, I would have checked, do I agree with that or not? And I would have been like, yep, I agree with that. You are right. But if I did not believe that, then I want to know where she is coming from. Right? So what would happen if you would turn the positive on, and if somebody says that about you or to you, you would start finding out, okay, where's this coming from? Why is that? Because I don't see it as being true, but maybe I should check it out. You're more curious. Instead of like, oh yeah, yep, I am stupid. You know what? If I start believing I'm stupid, guess how I'm going to start acting? I would start acting stupid, right? And then I would reinforce your belief and my belief that I am stupid. Right? And so I don't want to reinforce that, so I'm not going to receive it. How many of you are willing to step out on a limb with God right now and choose to turn that negative thing, that negative dial, over to a positive one? Yeah? Lord, you see these hands. I pray that you would download positivity into them, that they would not automatically receive the negative, but they would start finding ways to turn that negative into positive. Amen. Okay? So, I believe that for the most part, I'm able to take almost anything negative and turn it into positive. Now and then some comes through and I have to work on it or get somebody to help me. But for the most part, I've gotten to the point where negative isn't allowed. And so how am I going to turn that into something positive? It wasn't always that way with me. I actually had to learn that and grow in it and decide that, choose it and work on it and come back to it and come back again and come back again. But it was still my decision, right? If it's your decision to be positive, when a negative comes and it trips you up, you get back up and you're like, no, I want to be positive. So you come back to positive. And you keep coming back to positive. You keep coming back to positive. You keep practicing positive. And suddenly, the negative doesn't have the same pull on you anymore. And now, you're able to take even a big negative thing and find something positive in it. One of the ways to find positive in it is to forgive the person. Because if they did something against me, and now I forgive them, I take it to the cross, and I receive the peace of God, I got something positive out of that. Right? Am I going to remember all the stuff they did against me, or am I going to remember that no matter what they did, I was still able to return to peace? And suddenly, I start focusing on the peace that's available for me, and I start remembering that no matter what they do, I can return to peace. And I start living that way. And you can too. So let's say that it was true that I had slapped Mervyn in the face. Maybe it happened last week. Maybe it happened 15 years ago. Really doesn't matter that much when it happened. I come to Mervyn and I say, Mervyn, I remember a time that I slapped you in the face and I was out of line. Can you forgive me for that?
Yes, I forgive you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Done. Taken care of, where the enemy can't have it anymore. Right? Now let's say that he saw me do that. And he says, hey, you're not so hot yourself. I saw you slap Mervyn in the face. What do I do with that? Oh, yeah. Here we go again. Or do I say, yeah, you're right, I did. And I went and talked to Mervyn about it. Is there something I can make right with you? If he knows I talked to Mervyn about it, he's probably going to say, no, that's fine. But if he took it personal, maybe I have something to make right with him. Maybe he'll be like, well, yeah, it would be really nice to know that you care about that. Well, I want you to know that I do care. And I do not want to be the man that goes around slapping people in the face. Can you forgive me for that?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So now, not only did I make it right with Mervyn, but I make it right with you. Right? So, your total life experience, and some of your total life experience comes from your environment. How many know that it's different if you grow up in a family that everybody loves each other and everybody cares about each other and protects each other and just all flow together, that environment, or you grow up in an environment where your parents are constantly nagging you and putting you down, that type of thing, do you think that's going to make a difference in your total life experience? What if you go to a church where they accept you and they love you and they encourage you and help you to grow? Or you go to a church where they're watching every move you make and you think you messed up there? Do you think that's going to make a difference? Yes, absolutely it will make a difference, but it does not have to define you or control you if you're willing to take the steps to overcome that. Right? So we can have a room like this. Do you know that in a room like this, we have a wide variety of environments that you grew up in? We have a wide variety of what that looked like and what was going on in that home whether you were cared for and loved, whether you were constantly beaten up, or what that looked like. And we could go down the line and find out of, what are there, 27 of you participating today? We could probably find at least 20 different environments in these 27. Do you think? You think that's true? Okay, so it's not your environment that will determine if you can get free or not. But your environment might make a difference in how quickly you can get free. It might make a difference in how hard it is for you to get free. You might have to work a little harder than I did, based on what you went through and what I went through. Right? And so Jake and I grew up in the same house. We're a year and a half apart with the same parents. And when I was born, I was celebrated. When Jake was born, it was not the same celebration. Do you think Jake had a different experience in the same house than I did? Right? Same parents, same house, different experience. Okay? Now, that's not to blame our parents on that. They were going through whatever they were going through. Right? You were going through whatever you were going through. But it does make a difference. So now, let's look at what part of your brain do you use? What part of your brain is more dominant? Because hopefully you use both sides of your brain, right? That would be really awesome if you would. But your left side tends to be more thinking, logic, verbal, rational, factual, organized, realistic, and accurate. It's lined up. Okay? Now, watch the other side. Watch the screen here. Your other side is not like that. Your other side, fun, sensual, spontaneous, intuitive, fantasy, childlike, not lined up at all. You see that? Feelings, artistic, and unorganized. And if you're married, you're probably opposite. Right? Because opposites attract. So which one of those is right? If you're more left-brained or more right-brained, are you more right if you're left-brained or more right when you're right-brained? So let me ask a different question. Which one is probably going to be more accurate? The left brain. Which one's going to be more fun? The right brain. Right? And so these are part of life. And the more that you can learn to do both, talking to you, the more you can learn to do both, the better your life and the other people around you will be. So if you find yourself on the left side, maybe you should start practicing some of the things on the right side. If you find yourself on the right side, maybe you need to start practicing some things on the left side. I am a non-physical essence, right? It's good for us to remember this because we won't beat ourselves up as much if we understand this. And we're more able to problem solve if we understand this. Because we don't take things personal if we understand this properly. Then we'll start looking for, okay, so what is the solution? Because I did mess it up. So now what do I do now that I did mess it up? Because beating myself up does not help you or me. So why do I do that? Putting myself under a blanket of shame does not help me or you. So why would I do that? Let's find a solution. How can we work this out? What do we need to figure out or accomplish so that we can flow in this? Okay? So from your personal history come your needs. Do you know that you have needs? Do you know that your needs are not all the same? Some people's needs are different than other people's needs, right? A need is vital for survival. Water is a need, right? But you don't need water now. Don't even think of it. Right? You can wait a little bit yet. But if you wait too long, not having water is going to be a problem because a need is vital to survival. Needs are non-negotiable. You can't negotiate them. They are what they are. 4 psychological needs. Number 1 is a need to belong. Do you know that you have a need to belong? To love, to share, to cooperate. The need for friends, family, and love best describes the need to belong. If you have friends, you belong to that friend group. This week, you belonged in the Overcomers course. And there was something about belonging here that fulfilled a need in your life. This is also why you have gangs and mafia, people like that, is because of that need to belong. This is why you have churches, to belong. Right? The need for power, the need to accomplish something. Only humans compete for power for the sake of power, and what destroys close relationship is the power struggle. Do you know that you have a need for power? You have a need for power. You need something in your life that is powerful. If you don't have that, you get depressed. So what is powerful in your life? God is powerful, right? And so if we connect to Him, we get power. We might get power by arguing with somebody. Not a good way to get power. But it is one way that people do it. And if you don't feel powerful enough, maybe you get a powerful truck. And then you feel powerful. Maybe you manipulate somebody. Maybe you control somebody. What do you do for power? And power is not wrong in itself. If it's godly, if it's lined up, you need power. Need for freedom. Freedom to choose how we are to live our lives, express ourselves freely, and worship as we believe. That's a need. And so, when we work with you, we want to find out, what do you want? Because when you find out what you want, you will connect with what you need and it will come forth. Right? If I force you to do it, you might do it, but you won't feel that freedom. That need will not get met. Right? But how many of you saw get up front here because she wanted to. I was suggesting it, but she wanted to, and she got freedom from that. Right? Did you see that? If I would have forced her to come up here, she would not have gotten that same freedom. Do you understand that? That makes sense? And then the last one of the 4 psychological needs is the need for fun. So what do you do for fun? It's a need. Having fun is not something to be guilty about. You just need to do your fun in the right way. But you need fun. Something in your life needs to be fun. Right? So I have a friend who plays rook for fun. But he's unorganized. He picks his cards up and doesn't put them in the right place or anything. And it's almost painful to watch him play. Not mentioning any names, but you could ask him about it. Okay, so there's the 4 psychological needs. And then we come back to our flow chart. And we're going to go from our needs to our wants. A want enhances life. A want makes your life better. Right? So a want is negotiable. You can negotiate your wants. Maybe you want this, maybe you want this. You can negotiate about that and come to a place of understanding and agreement. What do you really want? If I would ask you, what do you want? You might say a candy bar. But if I say, what do you really want? It's probably not going to be a candy bar. Right? Because we're going deeper. So what do you really want? Maybe you want to write it down. What do you want? Way down under all the reallys, what do you want? It's probably going to come down to one of those 4 psychological needs. Freedom, belonging, fun, and what was the other one? Power. Right? So why do you want to spend time with your friends? Probably for the belong one, maybe for the fun one. Right? Why would you invite me to your friends? Not so I belong, but for the fun and the power.
Yeah.
Got it? You make these decisions based on this stuff. So you might as well know about it so that you can make better decisions. If what you want will deeply affect your life, emotionally, physically, or psychologically, then it is a need. It's not just a want, it's a need. If it will deeply affect your life. Some of us are so closed down that we cannot differentiate between what is life-sustaining and what is not. Wants are culturally determined and enhance life. However, they are not responsible for sustaining life. In fact, if you were in this culture, your wants would be different than if you were in that culture. Just because of what that culture does. Right? Wants can vary enormously from one culture to another, even from one part of a town to the other. If you are like most people, you will do almost anything to escape feeling emotionally unsettled or uncomfortable. However, the very act of avoiding pain is the same act that does everything in our lives that is also useful, affirming, and constructive. The very thing you use to avoid the pain is the very thing that makes your life boring. The very thing that makes your life unfulfilled. The very thing that keeps you from being fully alive. Which is why we teach you to turn around and face your pain. You turn around and face your pain, now you can live. You can thrive. You can grow. Right? So now we're looking at our dominant need. What is a dominant need? We always do what we believe will be the most favorable or pleasurable. We know our dominant need by what we are doing. All people are motivated. Did you know that all people are motivated? People do things for their reason, not yours. An overextension of a developed area may be an undeveloped area. Like, for instance, OCD is an overdevelopment of wanting to get everything right. And a fear of not getting everything right. So it's an undeveloped area. Okay? You cannot motivate anyone. All you can do is create an environment where people can thrive. So technically, we're not motivating you this week. What we're doing is we're creating an environment that you can thrive in, and then you can make better decisions. You can choose what you want from there. Which, in a sense, is kind of what motivation is, right? But it's not like we're here, we're really motivating you. What we're doing is we're laying things out in front of you so that you can choose. You decide what you want. Number one challenge is communication. Communication challenges arise because people don't know who they are. Did you know that's the number one communication challenge? Is people don't know who they are. And so they start just firing stuff from wherever. When you know who you are, you can actually sit down and talk about it. They fear saying, I don't know, so they mask. Everybody take your fingers like this and put it over your face, like you're putting a mask on. And now look at each other. Okay? Just look at each other, look around. And now take the mask off and be real. Isn't it better to just take the mask off and be real? Be real. Next is values. Value is that which is desirable for its own sake, that which is of importance to a person. So you might value something. All values are affirming and acceptable to the person who has the value. You have a value that is acceptable and affirming to you. Right? So give me an example of a value that you have. Yes? So you value your guitar. Okay? Anything else? Family. You value your family. Wearing shoes in the winter. What do you value? You have a lot of values. Right? Now, you can actually rank and grade your values. Okay? For instance, your guitar. Would you sell it for $1,000? Would you sell it for $100? 120. Okay, so did you see that we just found a value there of where his value is of that? Would you sell your family for $1,000? 100,000? $1 million? 10 million? 100 million? Do you see the value there difference between the guitar and the family? So let's talk about a conviction. How many of you have a conviction against pornography? Anybody have a conviction against pornography? Okay. So would you watch pornography for $1,000? 10,000? 100,000? $1 million? How many of you would watch pornography for $1,000? If you say yes, then it's not a conviction. Because a conviction is not an option in your life and you would die for it. So don't tell me you have a conviction against pornography, but you struggle with it. You do not struggle with your convictions. You might have a value with it, and you value it as long as you're doing good. As soon as you're not doing quite good, the value goes down, and you're back in it again. You understand what I'm saying? So if you have a conviction against it, it is not an option. You do not struggle with it. It just does not happen. And if somebody would have put a gun to your face and say, I'm going to blow you up if you don't do this, you would rather die than do it. That's a conviction. Right? A conviction is pretty strong. The only way to change a conviction is if you change your mind. And the only way you change your mind about a conviction is if you see you were wrong with that conviction. You don't just suddenly change your conviction because you kind of feel like sinning that day, right? If you change what you call your conviction and sin that day, it wasn't a conviction. Might have been a value, you might have valued it pretty high, but when that certain condition met, you valued the pornography higher than the value of not doing it, right? So that's how you measure convictions. It's how you measure the value of values. How high is that value? Apparently she likes her family because she didn't want to sell the family for $10 million. Right? Well, you can't compromise your convictions. You won't. Let's take for instance, let's say that a Jew has a conviction against eating meat. He believes that with God it would be completely wrong for him to eat meat, pork. Okay? And you and him would be on an island, and there was a pig on the island. You had nothing else to eat. You know what would happen? You would eat the pig, and he would die. If it was a conviction. If he had just been taught that this is how it needs to be and he didn't really believe it, then at that moment, what he would have called a conviction would have revealed itself as a value, because he would now be like, well, yeah, in this case, I will eat that. Right? So not all your values might be godly, but you still have them as a value. In fact, I believe that the reason that people struggle with fear is because they have a value in fear. In other words, they might have a hard time getting rid of fear because they still value fear in their life. And so sometimes it can be helpful to find out, why do you value this, and deal with the value part of it, and then suddenly it's easy to get rid of fear. But if you just want to, let's say smoking. Some people value smoking. What's behind that? Maybe they feel better after they smoke. Maybe it calms them down. Maybe it gives them some kind of a rush. It gives them some kind of a hit, something like that. And so they value smoking. But they know that they shouldn't, So they try to stop smoking without changing the value. Well, guess what? It keeps coming back. It keeps coming back, keeps coming back because they still have a value in it. You change that value, and suddenly it has different meaning. Right? So, value, okay, so wisdom is knowing what to do. Skill is knowing how to do it. And value is doing it. Right? So you might know what to do. You might even know how to do it. But if you don't value it, you won't do it. And that's why I keep asking you, what are you going to do if you want to change? What are you going to do to put a value on it? Are you going to put it on your mirror? Are you going to put it in your phone, have a schedule with it? What are you going to do so that it becomes a value to you and you actually do it? Just knowing this stuff doesn't do very much if you don't put a value to it and you apply it. Just makes you a more knowledgeable person that doesn't bring much value if you just know it. It's when you apply it that it becomes valuable. Here's a key. Start where people are, not where you want them to be. If you meet somebody and you meet them where they are, you can help them. If you try to meet them where you think they should be, you can't really help them. So if you want to say, how do you meet people at their level? Are we talking about if somebody is a baby in the spirit realm, you meet them as a baby. If they're a teenager, you meet them as a teenager. If they're an adult, you meet them as an adult. Can you meet the person where he is? Whether it's in that levels thing, and they're in certain maturity levels, or whether it's in whatever they're going through. Can you meet them at that place?
Like imagining you're in their shoes.
Yeah, kind of like that. Seeing where they are and trying to walk in their shoes would be another way of saying that. Asking questions opens up that pathway to connect. It can, especially if they're carrying questions. If you're doing interrogation questions, it doesn't open the same pathway as if you're doing curiosity questions. Curious to know what is going on in you, or what's happening, or how can I help you, or that type of thing. So 85% of value judging is done on an unconscious basis. You don't even know you're value judging, however you feel it. Value judging is where you judge somebody else for what they value. Right? So let's say that I would see somebody smoking. And my value is that is not a good thing. And I start value judging them for it instead of finding out why they do it. Right? And when you value judge, it seems to put up a wall between you. When you find out, okay, so I noticed that you were smoking, tell me what that does for you. Like, is there a reason that you do that? And then you would share why you do it, and maybe we have a little conversation. And you're not ready to stop, and so, okay, well, that's up to you, but I just wanted to know why you do that. And maybe in that you felt like I cared at least, and you start thinking about it, and they're like, well, why do I smoke? And maybe pretty soon you don't anymore. Right? So those are things that when you feel somebody like really looking down their nose at you, you don't really feel like receiving from them. So let's talk about some of the indications of value judging. How do you know when you're value judging? Here's some indications. You're numbing out or shutting down. It's how you feel inside. You can feel that I'm just not on that. By your behavior and attitude, by the language you use, critical or condemning views, negative judgments. These are indications that you're value judging. How to stop value judging? Give the people the benefit of the doubt. When you give somebody the benefit of the doubt, you're more willing to hear from them. So why are you doing this? Or you're giving them kind of that, well, maybe there's some things that I don't understand. Maybe there was some stuff. How many of you know that if you are value judging somebody and suddenly you find out that this and this and this happened in their childhood that really messed them up, that maybe all at once you get a little bit more of a soft heart toward them, right? That would be because you stopped value judging and you actually started caring. Give them the benefit of the doubt and be open to more options. Sometimes the reason we get stuck is because we're not willing to look at the options. What are some more options to look at here? And then see the heart of the matter. Can you see what is at the heart of the matter? Or are you so focused on the matter that you're not even connecting to what the heart is of the matter? Recognize that only hurting people hurt people. Hurting people will keep on hurting people. And so then you get hurt, and if you don't watch it, you're hurting other people, and then they'll hurt other people. And so how to reverse that is to choose to forgive. When you choose to forgive, you're actually facing the problem instead of perpetuating it and just passing it on to whoever. So let's talk about the forgiveness sequence.
So I want to talk about that. If you don't forgive, you will be the hurt person that will hurt others. Did you get that? Hurting people
If you
hurt
don't
people.
forgive, you will hurt others.
If you are a hurting person, check where are you hurting others, because you are. If you're going through life as a hurting person, you are hurting somebody somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Check if you find out where. Because you can get stuck in this hurt. I am hurt, I am hurt, I am hurt. Focusing on how hurt I am. But if you are hurt, you are hurting others somewhere.
And so one of the steps to take is to forgive, which includes forgiving yourself. You repent for having hurt them, and you start praying for them. And you do this before you contact them. Take a period of time where you're praying for them. Don't immediately like, oh man, I hurt them. I got to call them right now. Get yourself in a place where even the prayer that you pray for them is going to change them, but it's also going to change you. And so you keep praying for them. It's going to change you, and it's going to put you in the right frame of mind. It's almost like tuning a guitar or tuning something where when that guitar is tuned right, it gives that clear sound. Forgiveness sequence. First, recognize the problem and be willing to face it. That's the first step in the forgiveness sequence. Recognize the problem and be willing to face it. And that can take a little bit of time. You might start seeing, well, there is a problem. I don't really want to look at it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't even want to go there. But then you realize, well, I need to go there, and you become willing to look at it. That's a big step. When you're willing to look at it and you recognize the problem, you're willing to face it, then you take that next step, which is be transparent with God, yourself, and others. Be open with God. God, I see that I really messed up in my life. I've been doing some things that I don't even know for sure why I did it, but it's not okay. Can you please help me? And you go to somebody, maybe somebody you trust, and you're like, hey, I've been going about it wrong and I want to change that. Can you help me? Just being open about it already starts diffusing the problem, because the enemy operates on separation. If he can separate you and have you off by yourself, the enemy is already winning more. Whenever you come to God, the enemy is already starting to lose, because there's not that separation anymore. You connect with other people, there's that connection that starts happening. The next step is speak with someone or write it in a journal. There's something about speaking it out to somebody or writing it down somewhere that helps you to get solid on what it is and what to do about it. And then choose to trust God and give it to Him. Say, Lord, I give this to you. I don't want this anymore. I choose to give it to you. And then you forgive from the heart and bless the person, which brings true freedom and joy. So, back to our flow chart. Stress and distress. Do you know that you have stress in your life? And distress? Distress is something that's like really what we would say stressing you out. But normal stress is just that conflict in the day-to-day things that need to be addressed and things. And so but the stress and the distress that's going on largely have to do with your mind and your heart not being in agreement. You know you should do something, but you haven't done it yet. Or, there's something that you believe the truth in your head, but you don't believe it in your heart, or things like that causes stress in your life. When you forgive from the heart, it's like you're removing it from your heart. You're giving it to God, you're picking up a blessing, and you're giving that person a part of the blessing. Blessing the person does not equal condoning what they did, does not mean it was okay what they did. It just means that you bless them to have a relationship with God. The Bible says, bless those that curse you. You know why that is? I believe the reason that we bless those that curse you is because the blessing comes from God and disables the curse. It's almost like when some of those countries, they were shooting missiles at each other, and the missile was coming, and they would shoot another missile to take that one down. It's like blessing shoots up there and disables the curse that's coming at you. And so it's powerful to bless somebody. Your stress and your distress comes from your thinking and your feeling in connection with your personal history. So the same thing can be happening to one person as to another person, and they put a different meaning to it based on their personal history, based on your personal history. So something comes up, and let's say that I've cleaned up a lot of my personal history, and now this thing comes up. It doesn't stress me as much as it stresses somebody else who hasn't cleaned up their personal history. It stresses them to no end. Same thing, but it stresses them different depending on their personal history and how they think about it and how they feel about it, connected to what their life history was so far. How you're relating this. You're taking all the information you have here, and you're taking the information you have here, and you're lining that up, and it's like, this is not really working very well, right? But here's the thing. We have an opportunity for a shortcut. with our intuition from our inner knower, we know that it would be better to just, instead of just thinking this and feeling this, what if we forgive? And we have like a shortcut that short changes that connection thing. And it's like, if I forgive, I'm going to think differently about this. I'm going to feel differently about this. And it's going to change my personal history. And I'm going to become better. Right? And so if I get better, then it was actually okay for that stress to come up, because it brought me face to face with what I'm feeling, with what I'm thinking, and it gave me an opportunity to rewrite history. So there's two ways to deal with your personal history. One is to add to it, right? So if you add to it, it waters it down and it makes you add good experiences. That's one way. The other way is to rewrite history, which means that you have the opportunity to go back there to that third grade teacher, and you might not go to the person, but go back to that incident and forgive that third grade teacher for what they did. And that changes your personal history. Because now when you go to look at it, you see a different picture. Now, instead of the pain that was there, you go back to look at that again, and you meet the forgiveness that you put there. And you start feeling different about the third grade teacher and about the things that happened there because you're forgiven. So now your personal history is different, which means that the next time stress comes up, your personal history is different, and so the stress is going to be addressed different. Okay? So one of the things to do is to pause, to breathe, and to affirm. And one thing to do with that is, I am calm and relaxed. Just calm down and just, I am calm and relaxed. I'm going to address it from that point. I'm calm and relaxed. I am lovable and I'm capable. I am able to give love and receive love. That's lovable, right? Love able. I'm able to give love and I'm able to receive love. And capable is I have the capacity to give and to receive, to do something about it. And then you pray this prayer: Holy Spirit, guide all my decisions. And it circumvents something. It's almost like it captures the things that are going on and brings them back into order. Stress is natural, distress is a disease. It comes from value judging. So next we're going to talk about the process of change. First you have the status quo. Then you have an introduction of a foreign element, a new idea. And then you have chaos. And you know you are growing when you have chaos.
Who wants to grow?
Okay, who wants to grow? You know what's going to happen? If you're serious about this, there's going to be some chaos. But if you know you're growing when you have chaos, you're going to be way more okay with the chaos than if it's like, oh, this is chaos and I'm just a victim to it. I have no idea why this is going on. No, you chose. You said, I want to grow. You chose it. Now face it. Man up to it. Like you signed up to do 50 push-ups, then don't be complaining when you're doing your 50 push-ups. You chose it. Right? That's the same way here. You chose to grow. You face the things that you need to face to grow. And you will grow. Look at your neighbor and say, you will grow. You'll grow. Yeah. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. Did you see that when we were doing the exercise? Did you see that some of these people came up here and they started actually becoming more comfortable in their uncomfortable? They were pushing into something and it became more comfortable. Choose to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Choose to face it, walk in it, step out. That's how you're going to grow. You're not going to grow very much if you just want to stay comfortable. Hello? You with me yet? You're not going to grow very much if you're going to stay comfortable. You have to get out of your comfort zone and practice new possibilities. Practice new possibilities. Did you see the practice going on this morning? Do you know that everybody got something out of that practice time? Not just the people up front. If you were paying attention, everybody got something out of that. And then you have a new status quo. You have a new normal. You start living from that new normal. And you live in that new normal until you have an introduction of a foreign element that brings you back into the chaos. And you can be comfortable in that new uncomfortable. And you practice the new possibilities there. And then you get a new status quo. And this repeats itself over and over. In fact, if you look back over your life, you'll notice that it happened multiple times in your life. You had a status quo, and then you had an introduction of a new idea, and you started doing that, practicing it. It was chaotic, and you had to become comfortable in it, and even though it wasn't comfortable, and you practiced it, and then pretty soon it became your new way of living. When you choose to bury the pain, the outcome is short-term pleasure for long-term pain. Are you going to bury the pain? And then you have a short relief, but a long-term pain? Or are you going to deal with the pain? When you deal with the pain and experience it, the outcome is short-term pain for long-term pleasure. And that's what we're talking about. Face your stuff, face your stuff, face your stuff, face your stuff. It's going to be a short-term pain. Face it anyway. Face it, face it, face it, because that will give you a long-term good outcome. If you get rid of the pain before you answer the question, you get rid of self. That's where self-rejection comes in. You're trying to get rid of the pain without answering its question. Then you have self-hatred and self-rejection. Because you're trying to get rid of yourself. And yourself, in that context, is not the problem. It's the pain that's the problem. Address the pain. Okay, so we have our flow chart. We have our connection there. And now we can decide. From the stress that is happening, we can decide something. What do we want to do from here? You make a new decision, you make a new direction in your life. Because your decisions start giving you outcomes, which starts giving you new results. Right? So that's why it's really important to decide. What do you want? What do you want? You keep deciding, what do I want? The choices I make create the direction of my life. Do you believe that? The choices I make create the direction of my life. So let's be very mindful of what choices are we making. And are the choices that I'm making going to take me to where I want to go? Because the choices that you are making are going to take you somewhere. So you want to check, if I follow this choice, is that where I want to go? If it's not where I want to go, let me change the choice now so that it doesn't take me there and then I don't like where I'm at. If I change that to a choice that it takes me to where I want to go, then later on when I get there, I'm actually happy being there. Right? So a lot of the choices that we made over the years brought us to here. And I like it here. Okay, so continuing our journey here, after we decide, we need to act. It doesn't help very much to decide something if you're not going to take some kind of action with it. So that's why we're looking at, okay, so what action are you going to take? You're going to write it on your mirror? Are you going to put an alarm in your phone? What are you going to do to take action? You're going to pick up the phone and call somebody? Are you going to schedule a meeting? Are you going to forgive somebody? Are you going to pray? Or what are you going to do? What kind of action are you going to take? Take that action. Remember, pause, breathe, and affirm. And then next is we are going to look at the outcomes, the responsibilities, the consequences, and the benefits of what we decided and what we took action on. We're going to look at that and we're going to say, okay, this outcome, this responsibility, this consequence, and this benefit, is this what I want? If it's not, let's make a new decision and a new action. Right? Because if that consequence or that benefit or that outcome is not what I want, I can go back to the decision-making process and make a new decision so that I can then take a new action that then brings the outcome that I want. So your outcomes add to your total life experience. And you basically, like Jake said, you loop through the whole thing again. Your needs change. You know that your needs change when your new life, when your total life experience changes, which then changes your personal history, which then changes your needs, changes your wants. It changes your dominant need. It changes your values, and it brings you back to that decision-making process. And you look at it and say, well, that's still not where I want to be. So I'm going to just choose to do this. And I'm going to take this action, which will get me closer to where I want to be. And that adds to your total life experience, adds to your personal history, changes who you are, really. It changes how you express yourself. It changes how you live. It changes how you interact with other people. It changes how friendly you are, how caring you are, and how connected you are. The greatest gift I can give myself is to be responsible and accountable. Do you get that? The greatest gift I can give myself is to be responsible and accountable. If I can be responsible and accountable, people will automatically trust me more. People will flow with me more. It will just make everything easier. I'm responsible when? You want to know when I'm responsible? I'm responsible when I can perform tasks without being told every time. I don't have to be told everything. I start actually stepping up and taking initiative. That shows that I'm responsible. I'm responsible when I have clear outcomes which I predict in advance. Do you have some clear outcomes you can predict in advance? I'm responsible when I do not blame others for anything. I'm responsible when I am able to know the difference between needs-driven and values-led choices. Do I do things because I'm led by values and I want to do them? Or do I do things because I need to do them and I don't have an option, and if I don't do them, I'm going to be in trouble? I'm responsible when I start doing things because I see a value in doing it, and not just because somebody has on my back. I'm responsible when I can make unpopular decisions. A decision needs to be made. It's not going to be popular, but it's the right thing to do. And so we're going to make that decision. We're going to face the consequences of what that is, but we're going to face it and do it. I am responsible when I make agreements and commitments and keep them. That's a really good way to build trust with somebody. Make agreements and commitments and keep them. How many of you know people that make agreements and commitments and don't keep them? How many know people that make agreements and commitments and keep them? Do you trust the people that keep them more than the ones that don't? Automatically happens, right? That's what we're talking about. Make commitments and agreements and keep them. And if there's ever a point that you can't keep them, communicate with them. Tell them why you can't keep it and see if you can make a new agreement. I am responsible when I acknowledge choices and then move forward. I look at the choices that are in front of me. I look, okay, there's different choices. I'm going to have to choose one. I choose this one and I move forward with it. I am responsible when I take charge of my life. And taking charge of your life does not mean I take charge so I can do my own thing. It means to take charge where I'm stepping up in responsibility. I don't need everybody else to change my pamper every day. I don't need everybody to butter my bread, all that stuff, right? I can actually step up and take charge of my own life and pull my share, so to speak. I'm responsible when I respect myself and others daily. And I'm responsible when I am present to each moment and each person in the moment. Can you include the people that are in your moment and not just pass by and not see the people, but actually connect? Every action has natural and logical outcomes, consequences, and benefits. Every action you take, and you are responsible for everything you think, say, do, and feel. So next we're going to talk about the true test to get better outcomes, consequences, and benefits is to develop the two skills of external listening and asking questions. External listening means to listen to the person that you're talking to and not just listening to what's going on inside of you. Are you able to hear what they're saying? And can you ask questions to clarify that and help bring it out? Caution, caution, caution. Everybody pay attention here. We want to give you a caution. Your new knowledge and awareness now makes it more possible for you to be an even more sophisticated value judger. Don't do that. Don't become a more sophisticated value judger because you now understand some of these things and you're going to use it more against people. Focus your energy on accepting people where they are and, when appropriate, inviting them to grow. You have this information, you use it to invite people to grow, not to judge them more. The purpose objective is TUA, total unconditional acceptance. And that means unconditional acceptance for the sinner, but zero tolerance for the sin. Accepting the person for who they are, not accepting their sin, not accepting their issues, but still accepting the person. So we're going to go through a few basic principles. Stop value judging, but instead of that, evaluate, observe, and correct, especially in yourself. evaluate where am I at? I'm observing that, and I'm going to correct something in me. You can correct other people too, but you have to be careful with it. Okay? Utilize the Holy Spirit. Let the Holy Spirit guide you and show you what to do and steps to take and things like that. You're not sure what to do? Pause. Ask Holy Spirit, guide my decisions. Help me to know what to do. What do you want me to know about this person? Often when I'm counseling somebody, I'm like, Lord, what do you want me to know about this person? And automatically, it's like I start asking questions that I'm not even sure why I'm asking the question always. But a question pops in my mind, I ask it. Next question, and I ask it, and it leads somewhere. Accept total responsibility for everything you think, say, do, and feel. And when you do that, you're going to have total unconditional acceptance for the person, not for the sin. Tips for communication. Do what you do very well and do it better every time. Be present to the moment and every person in the moment. Be who you are as much as you can. Like, be real. Be who you are. But don't believe that being real means that your soul takes over. Be who you are in the spirit with God. Support people. Be a thermostat, not a thermometer. Do you know the difference between a thermostat and a thermometer? The thermometer tells you what the temperature is, and the thermostat does something about it. Learn how you learn, and do not complain about anything to anyone unless you can do something about it. Go to the source. Be playful. Treat serious things lightly and light things seriously. Make your life an act of love. How many of you want to make your life an act of love? That's what I want. I want my life to be an act of love. Right? So we are going to finish this yet. We're almost finished. Communication skills. Number 1, check your attitude. If you want to communicate and your attitude is out of order, you're going to have a whole big challenge of even getting your thoughts across. You're going to have a hard time connecting. You check your attitude, get your attitude in order, your communication skills will greatly improve. And then be present to the moment and each person in the moment. You make a connection with them. Invite them into the conversation. Don't just ignore them. And then number 3, give eye contact. Number 4, give undivided attention. Number 5, stop mind reading. Don't try and read their mind. Find out. Ask them what is happening or what they're thinking and things like that. It's not your job to read their mind. Find out. Let others speak for themselves. Don't just speak for others. Let them speak for themselves. And no interrupting others. Let them bring it out. Number 8, let people finish their own sentences. Number 9, describe your feelings. And number 10, put color in your words and voice. We talked about that earlier, right? Put some color in. Don't just have blank pages of black and white still pictures. Put some color in it. Make it active. And last slide. This is the process of progress. This is how you measure your progress. Okay? This is really good. You ready for this? Really good. Okay? It's really good. You want to know it? Okay. Number one, someone else brings it to your attention. You're going to mess it up. And somebody's going to bring it to your attention. Don't beat yourself up. Just make some progress with it. Like, okay, thank you for bringing it to my attention. Number two, you catch yourself after you have completed it. Do you notice that? Let's talk about the thing about the person comes up here and we're pointing out you've made 3 ums and didn't finish your sentence. Okay, somebody was bringing it to their attention, and then you catch yourself after you've completed it. Oh, I said again. Okay. Number 3, you catch yourself as you're doing it. You're kind of in the middle of it and you stop. You're like, I caught myself. That's progress. Right? Can you give yourself a pat on the back for making progress here? Each one of these is progress. Number 4, you catch yourself before you do it. You're just about to do it and you catch yourself. That's progress. And number 5, you no longer do it. And one of the things that tends to happen is you're going through life, you no longer do it, you probably don't notice that you no longer do it the day after you no longer do it. What tends to happen is 5 months down the road, you look back and you're like, I no longer do this. When did I stop? Right? So, that, my friends, concludes the teaching. And are there any questions? Yes.